moti, moi mai roto I te ari. A me oki mai raki tātou I ngā pani oro o tātou tūpuna. Kia koutou te haukainga, kia koutou ngā manuwhiri, ngā ringaringa kā o te kaunihira, nau mai, haramai. Nau mai, haramai ki ringa I te kaupapa nei, ki ata titiro ki ngā tika, ki te tia, ki te tai amo o tātou tamariki mokopuna. Anō reira, ki ringa E tēnā, ko te ato tō tātou ne piringa, ka puta, ka ora, pai mari.
Wai nai, tūana ki te tautoko I ngā mea. Tātou matanui te rangi. Nāna nei ngā mea katoa I hanga. Te tauhoki ana manaakitanga ki runga I tō tātou puini I ngā mea honui. Wai nai, tangi tonu nei te iwi. Te tuahinga atu I tu heitia. Te rārangi mariki, te rārangi kingi pō. Nō reira, I ngā mate katoa, tu mate. O te wiki te marama te tau, haere atura. Te toko katoa na ngā kupu, tēnā koe te whakakaupapa mai te hui nei. Mō te taia o mō te tangata mō te iwi tēnei hui, nō reira e mihi atu ana. Tēnei mātu te kaunihera arohe, aka, ko kite kua tai atu, ngā kai kaunihera, tō mātou tia, Pamela, ngā kai mahi, Greater Catchment, SPI, mātou tangi, ki te tautoko I te kaupapa te hui, nō reira tēnei mātou ka mihi atu. Ki ngā ringa raupao te Waikato Tainui, tai atu ki a koe Jackie, kānui te mihi kia koutou, me te kite hoki, e hihi ana koe kia au ki te mahi, ana ko te mahi te tino kaupapa o te hui nei no reira, waiho te kōrero mō muri atu, tēnā koutou, and my wife will be the same as his, the one that you sing by the edge, you're going to go back to the chest.
O tēnā kōrua, whakatūwhera tō tātou hui tēnei ata. He Karakia Timatanga, to start us off. Kia ino I tātai. Whakarongo ake au ki te mani. Tui ai runga, tui ai raro, tui ai roto, tui ai waho. Ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao, tihei mauri ora. So Pamela's just reminded me that technically we can't start our hui until Jeff gets here. But I think there's some health and safety things that we can work through in the meantime. So I'm going to ask Mara to just point out. Have you been here before? You have?
Yeah, and we didn't tell you the emergency and health and safety the last time you were here. So the amenities are through that door. And you'll see a sign over in the corner for the whare paku. If you need first aid, let me know and I'll go and get Auntie Marianne as we have a first aid kit in the kitchen. Our assembly point, if there's an emergency on site, obviously we've got fire exit doors there. It's just over there on the old netball courts. That's where we will assemble. And there'll be another health and safety briefing for you all before you go on the site visit to the nursery. Kia ora tātou.
Do we use the time to give an overview of what we're going to do on our site visit, what we're going to look at?
Yeah, so Timakarini's organised that. You'll drive out here and go down just a little further, just past where the houses are, and on the what's this hand left is our nursery, and that's where we've been. We've re-established the nursery since we came out of COVID. Actually, it's older than that though, but I'll leave the nursery manager to tell you the history of the nursery. So we're going to show you what we're doing there in terms of the growing of the native plants for restoration. And we're also going to, I think, take you to where Te Ariki Nui actually planted a little grove of trees within the ngahere, within the bush there. And the team's going to talk to you about the history of that as well. And I think the site visit was all about talking about the work that the team are doing across the marae and along the river to restore the environment. So that's the purpose of the visit to the nursery today. And it's nice and handy, so it's not far to go. And you will have a health and safety person with you. Te Makarani will be here, and the nursery team are all waiting to receive you.
I think I've just seen Jeff roll in, but you would have noticed some work happening around the Hopu Hopu site. So the Hopu Hopu site's very large. I think it's about 170 hectares in size. Hectares or acres? Big. Yeah, it's big. But what we've got a master plan for Hopu Hopu, and we've got some construction work that's underway at the moment. So just in front of us, that's going to be a new maintenance building. So at the moment, our current maintenance is behind our chambers. So our chambers is where our Te Whakakitinga meet. So that's our whare. So that's the maintenance room. We've got new ablution blocks that are going in behind here. Most weekends during winter, this place is packed with tamariki who come and play league here. So for us, it was important that we provide some decent facilities for our tamariki. So the ablution block is a real priority for us. We expect that to be done by March. And we've also got a new sports pavilion that's being built for the same reason, just to support our rangatahi and tamariki in their sporting endeavours. So those are really the first parts of continuing on the redevelopment that started here back in the early 2000s. Across the road, you might have read that we'd signed an agreement with the government for housing. So the intention is to develop some new houses. I think it's 43 is the first stage. 43 new houses in the Hopu Hopu area. So a lot of infrastructure planning is going on at the moment to support that. While we're at the nursery, we'll point out the quality of the waterway that actually crosses under the road there. It's in a terrible state. And I guess we're becoming acutely aware of that as we start doing our own redevelopment there. But it would be great to, in the future, think about how we can impact and influence catchment activities that flow through and into our awa from the growth area that's coming out of Ngarawaki. So you'll see it, and you'll be able to just tell by looking at it that it's in a really, really poor state. So really keen to have a kōrero about that when we get up. Good, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. We've just been through the admin, health and safety, all of that sort of thing. But now that you're here, we can kick into the agenda. Nicholas and Roger opened up our hui for us as well. So the first item is apologies. So just recording that Hinarangi Raumati Kaua and Donald Turner are apologies from Waikato Tainui. Are there any other apologies that need to be recorded?
Sorry, just say.
Can't cope with the pace that we're moving.
No.
It's fun. That'll go. There we go.
Any other apologies? No apologies from Tupan.
Happy to move.
Can we record her as late?
I've had no communication from firms.
Okay. Can I get a mover for the apologies? Got a Jen seconder. Bruce, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Kia ora. Moving to our agenda.
We'll get there.
There's some hard copy, Jeff, there's some hard copies up there. If you want to grab a copy, just because this is lagging.
It's right here. If anyone else? Okay, guys. Thank you. You want to okay, but I thought I can't. Yeah.
So pretty straightforward agenda.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Decide.
Not many items, but a lot of information packed in the updates. So if we're all happy with the agenda, and I'll get a mover, I'll confirm the agenda. Pamela, seconder. Yep. No. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Good up. Moving to disclosures of interest. So as the PAC says, just, we're reminded that we need to maintain that clear separation between our personal interests and our mahi. That's something that we manage on the daily. But if anyone has any new conflicts that they need to add to the register, please let Brooke know. As the items come up, if there's anything that conflicts you, just raise that at the time. Okay. Minutes from confirmation, minutes from our previous hui on the 1st of October. So good minutes, good to see a little bit of colour in the detail. So hopefully everyone's read the minutes and is comfortable with them. Can I get a mover that the minutes from the 1st of October are correct? Jen.
Oh, sorry, if I can just ask, you had asked for a bit greater detail in these. Is this a sufficient level of detail, or are you looking for additional narrative?
It's moving in the right direction.
Moving
In the right direction. Yeah. I think that what's clear to me is we've got to record actions, otherwise it will just be lost.
Yeah.
I think on some subjects having a little bit more colour is helpful, but I think it's moving in the right direction.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a mover, Jen. Second, my son, I was there. No. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Well done. Any matters arising from the minutes? I know that's not on the agenda.
Just a question, I suppose, for democracy with the action items that are noted. Are we going to have an action register that we go through at the start of the meeting?
I could probably help on that, Madam Co-Chair. As our standard practice, we've started reporting back to every co-governance hui the actions that are still in the out of the minute. And so later on in the meeting, we'll take the committee through that action list as well as some actions from some other
just for noting, we'll come to them at the end, but to give people a heads up, I'm keen for an update on the vessel, just what's happening with that. Not on the agenda, but it would be good to get a verbal sort of update on the climate change mahi. That's something that's being developed. And everything else will be covered in the action list and other items.
You, Madam Chair, the action on page 20 for us to follow up on appointments to the Waikato Scheme Subcommittee. Our process is that those appointments go to Te Whakakitinga Appointments Committee, which we have actioned, and so we need to wait for the Appointments Committee to make that.
We can come to those if Thank you, Mara. Just one final thing, I'll raise it now. The sort of general business. I would like to raise the Te Tiriti Principles Bill with Regional Council and our view that you should be putting in a submission in opposition to it. Understand you've got a paper going to your council this week or tomorrow. Yep. So just noting that for conversation. All that. So moving to our first item, big kaupapa, Whangamarino Waikare.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Ashley. I've got it all here, but yeah, if you want to. Kia ora koutou. Kia ora, Madam Co-Chairs. Thank you for the invitation to come along today. For Mike Scarsbrook Tokuingoa, I'm the Science Manager at Waikato Regional Council. You'll have seen the paper that was in the agenda, but I've got a few slides just to really generate some conversation, some questions. So I can provide sharing.
How do you see that? Seeable, eh? Yeah.
Bit dark, but I just thought I'd start with a summary, and I'm happy to get questions and comments all through. But as we all know, that Lake Waikare, Whangamarino wetland, and many of the water bodies in the catchment are highly degraded, and that state has occurred over a long period of time. The causes are quite complex, multiple causes, and I think we realise that long-term improvements, rehabilitation or restoration is going to take a long time and be quite a complex matter. It's become increasingly clear that we need coordinated action to address the degradation of the lake and the wetland and restore those water bodies over time. We saw 2 summers ago a major event with fish kills and avian botulism outbreaks in Whangamarino wetland following the Cyclone Gabrielle event. That was, I guess, the latest in a series of those types of events. We see Lake Waikare being permanently under a no swimming ban in terms of the cyanobacterial blooms that have become established and almost a permanent feature of that lake. So as the organisation that has responsibility for managing our natural environment, quite rightly, Waikato Regional Council has come under some criticism, and various partners and communities have voiced their concerns about the state of the water bodies and asked us to usually bring people together to identify a restoration pathway. So about 18 months or more than 18, almost 2 years ago, we formed a Whangamarino response working group, and that group met to develop a short-term response to the events that we saw in the wetland in 2003. That group has morphed into a working group to develop a longer-term action plan for the whole of the Whangamarino catchment. And in that action plan, we'll identify, test and prioritise a set of actions for medium to long-term work that will, we hope, lead to the improvements in the health and well-being of the water bodies in that catchment. So this is the extent of the catchment we're talking about in the work that we're doing. So it's the whole of the Whangamarino catchment upstream of State Highway 1. It includes Mangatangi catchment, which has the forested headwaters with the Water reservoir there. You've got major subcatchments, the Maramarua, the Kopuera, the Wairinga, and the Marahuru. Historically, Lake Waikare would have drained to the Waikato River through Te Aonatia Stream, but with the lower Waikato Flood Protection Scheme, the primary outlet for Lake Waikare is through Pangarehu Canal, down through Whangamarino wetland and out to the Waikato River. So you can see it's quite a significant catchment. It's a large catchment in the lower Waikato, and if you look at the land use picture there, it's predominantly dry stock farming and dairy farming, some forestry, some cropping and horticulture, very small amount of urban. Te Kōwhara being the main town there, although Te Kōwhara is growing quite rapidly.
And Mike, just for like future presentations, could you put our marae on that bit?
Yeah, I think yeah, great idea. So the overall purpose of the project that we have underway is to develop an action plan. And the process of getting to that action plan, we're looking for a collaborative and inclusive process to understand the ideas people have for how we can restore. We recognise that there are multiple parties out there with ideas and views on how the lake and the wetland and other waters can be restored. Some of those ideas will be, very long term, quite transformational in terms of things that might have to happen over many generations or several generations. Other ideas might be things that we can continue to do that we're already doing, such as sediment controls in the Marahuru catchment, as an example, which ICM does a lot of work in. We want to capture that the context of the catchment, community objectives and prioritised actions in that action plan. We've promised to deliver that by June 2026, so just over 18 months away. And from a WRC perspective, we would then expect to use that action plan to guide medium to long-term investment, including seeking implementation project funding through the long-term plan. To date, the funding for the project has come from WRC's long-term plans, and I'd like to thank councillors for supporting the project. And we've also had support from Waikato River Authority with that funding primarily focused on iwi engagement, so making sure that iwi have a strong voice in the process. I've got the slide in here, but I know I probably don't need to read it out. But when we're thinking about a vision for what we're trying to achieve, very early on, we realised that we have a vision for what we're trying to achieve, and that's Te Ture Whaimanga. And so what we're looking to do is give effect to Te Ture Whaimanga within Whangamarino catchment. A bit of detail here, but I just wanted to highlight how the project is structured. We had a really good conversation about this at our last working group meeting. I just wanted to highlight the separation of governments from project delivery, and I would hope that in terms of governance and governance reporting, this committee would be interested to have regular updates on this project as we move through it. obviously we also have contract arrangements in place with Waikato River authorities, so according to them, and we've started the process of understanding how our iwi partners want to be directly involved in delivering the project itself. Part of that is through the Whangamarino response working group that was formed some time ago. That group is now meeting every 2 months and is made up of representatives from DOC, Waikato River Authority, Fish and Game, Waikato Tainui, several local hapu, landowners, community, the district council and ourselves, the regional council. At our last working group meeting, what we talked about was the working group actually being more involved in the delivery of the project and various subgroups within that working group. So we've got a landowner engagement subgroup, a science and Mātauranga group bringing together that information, a community and youth engagement group, and iwi engagement subgroup. So over the last couple of months, we've been identifying and contracting people who can provide the coordination role of those different subgroups.
Sorry, Mike, if you can go back to just a pause there. If there are any comments or questions on this, I've got some, but Jeff, if you.
I just raised an issue that I raised at the Whangamarino working group. Insofar as Mike was giving an overview, and I picked up on a couple of words that Mike was saying, and essentially you've got the technical people working in the background, and I'm paraphrasing this, Mike, so correct me if I'm wrong, essentially working to deliver an action plan that's to be delivered to us post-Christmas, and we were to sign that off and take it forward as our own. And I had some issues with that it was being developed without any association to the group. And if we were to own it, I wanted to be more understanding of it at an earlier time frame than just having a product delivered for us to tick box and go out. And I'm not trying to be offensive, or otherwise, please don't get me wrong, but I wanted, and what was really interesting, many of the representatives around the table were of the same opinion as were others. And so I want to thank Mike for listening to the concern of having a product delivered which we had nothing to do with, owning it and taking it out as our own. And some might say, well, that's what life is all about. And that's the difference between governance and management and the likes. But the reality for this type of project, I just see working and taking it out and sponsoring it and so on needed more understanding of the fundamentals. So I don't know whether you want to take it up from where you've got to from there, Mike, or you.
Yeah, through the chair, I think the important additional element there is that we wanted to develop a starting point for the discussion. And so that was when we talk about delivering something in January, that was all about getting a straw man, if you like, for the basis of discussion, a structure. It was never ever the expectation that we would be pumping something on the table for somebody to rubber stamp.
That's how it came across. So we worked through that. So
yeah. So I think it's really important that and some of the fundamentals are that everyone in the community gets an opportunity to share their ideas and have their ideas considered alongside everyone else's ideas. I think in the past there's been perhaps we haven't been so inclusive in thinking about catchment management, and so this is I guess our approach to trying to be much more inclusive.
Branch suspension. If he's left, he's technically suspended.
There's a settlement hui that's happening over here. So Jeff's just taking his auntie over there.
Jackie, was there anything you wanted to, sorry, Chair, was there anything? you wanted to
Yeah.
cover?
I guess I'm just thinking about how can this committee have a higher level of oversight, or not oversight, that's not the right word, because I don't want to just, put another
Understand.
governance
Share some understanding.
thing. Yeah, and I guess have the opportunity to input, like at the right times, rather than just being reported to. So really keen to see how that can be worked into the program. Like we can duck in these other levels, and some of us are aware of what's happening just through other avenues. But just visually, to have us sort of on the side with a reporting line, I think it would be better if we're somehow integrated into the project. Really happy to see, I guess, the iwi subgroup and that being formed, and the Science Mātauranga group as well. I haven't heard anything about the workshop that was held. I don't know if Mara has, but I know there's a lot of talk going into it. So if you can have a think about how this committee might be able to have actual input into the progress of the project as it happens, that would be appreciated. The other thing that I'm really keen to understand is, how do we make sure that we're taking an integrated view of everything that's happening in the catchment? So the Motukaraka and Island Block, all of those other things, so that we avoid, I guess, a siloed view. I think the catchment that you've shown sort of helps to shape that a bit, but it would be good just to see how those different projects all link together and what the approach is.
It is a very complex catchment, and with a long history, and there are significant ongoing bodies of work already underway, and then there's sort of historic work that's been done. Because we're getting to that point though of saying, well, what we've done in the past has got us to where we are now, and we probably need to think more transformationally, in a different way about how we do things in the future. I think that is, working with Greg and the ICM team is, I think across WRC, there's a recognition that we need to work transformationally in terms of catchment management more holistically. And so that's, I hope we can do that justice in this project, but it is extremely complex.
I'm wondering if, I'm not sure if that's an action point for this committee, because as you've referred to, there are a number of projects that are going on. Like as you've clearly stated, they're all connected, and I think that what we're hearing from this committee is a desire to see a holistic approach to how we ensure these different projects are well connected, that this committee specifically has ability to input into the various projects, see how they hang together. So I'm just wondering if we note that as an action point to come back with, we recognize that, here's how we might build some structure around that, whether it's a standing agenda item, whether it's a reporting framework, I don't know, but I'd like us to dedicate some thinking time to how we might hang these together, really collectively, I suppose. Just, I don't know how you're gonna magic that up there, Mike, but I mean, I think we recognize it's a challenge, but I suppose this committee is saying, hey, we want to rise to that challenge. And we want to put the resourcing into ensuring that the progress we're making is a collective and holistic progress as opposed to piecemeal.
There lies the issue, Madam Chair, is in that there was some discussion that had quite universal support. Looking, and I'm again paraphrasing it a little bit, but essentially looking at going back before the scheme and looking at what was the natural state of the river system and the likes, and seeing what that would look like if it was reinstated or to some extent. And you know, having come away, what surprised me was the universally supported landowners, iwi, even DOC were not adverse to it. Wouldn't say they bought into it completely, but no one dismissed it as an idea. And what it's caused me to think about since that is, are we going to resource this sufficiently? Do we actually understand the can of worms that we've opened? Because this could be bigger than Ben here, as they say, but you know, it's really, where does it stop? And I think that working group needs to understand, or council needs to understand, where this could lead to, and if there's any restrictions on it. And I think that would be a bad thing to do early on. So we really need to understand and prepare for where this could go.
Yeah, and I agree with everything that's been said, and obviously it's knowledge of how things used to flow, and so that has got to be a good thing. I think if we kick that can down the road, it's only in the future that someone else will want at that end. Yeah, and obviously, yeah, the project will know at what points the JMA meetings are in order to utilise us in a proactive sense, perhaps. And if there is I would never want to slow down the project, but if there's a chance for us to have one of our little field trips, or you know, we can slot in little extra things, even if it's just an online catch up for an hour. Maybe be a little bit more flexible with the years. Let's keep going with that. And lastly, just had a thought when I looked at the membership list of the working group. I just thought there might be a little bit more buy-in and pulling in of Waikato District Council. I saw there was just one member. Just thought could be given some thought to, but yeah, that was just a reflection because I haven't gone to this level of detail with this project. The last time I saw it was when we signed off 400,000. So that was just a reflection. They're on there. They are, but I had one. What is it? Garrett Hilson. A staff member. And I just wonder whether there could be more. Whether that's. I'm always loath to invite councillors to it, but if there could be more, so that their council is a bit more on the journey of all of this from the get-go.
We did, for you, Chair, sorry, we did have a Waikato District Council come along to several meetings, and then they essentially opted out.
And the very last one was, with the membership, is there a feeling that with the members that there's enough of a contribution of perhaps the others who aren't local landowners? I'm just thinking that a lot of the time your general rates contribute to the future of this as well. And I sometimes wonder if these projects can get very insulated of people who know the issue and are on the ground and there. And I wonder whether there'd be a benefit of some kind of role, or more of a person with the hat on of the wider citizen view. I don't know what that looks like, but it's just something to give some thought to as it progresses. Kind of zoom people back out for a minute, or but we might have all of that capacity already in there with some pretty wide ranging organisation.
Some people skin on the game.
Yeah, but sometimes it's helpful to have someone without skin in the game to just say that thing that needs saying. So, really?
That's my understanding, Mike, is I mean, I know that we committed in our last LTP, the 400,000 for a fairly contained business case. Was the intent that that business case would then lead to a bid in the next LTP, recognizing that she's a big project?
Yeah.
And so the 400,000 was really gather people together, start our thinking, flesh out what it is that we all need to populate in terms of our knowledge, so that then we can go forward with the bigger project, whatever that might look like. And that would feed into our, is it 2027 LTP? That's the intent, isn't it? So just so everybody's on board with that, this isn't we don't think we're solving this with 400,000.
There was a discussion, Madam Chair, insofar as this is to understand what the issues are and identify the pathway forward. The funding for that would come later. This is to identify what the issue is and what we have to do about it, and the best pathways forward. That's what I signed up to, and believe that's what the discussion was all about.
I just wanted to make sure that.
The first step, because like you say, 400K is not going to get us far.
No, and it is recognised in that 400K, recognised that there has been significant investment before, historically as well. So we have a 2018 catchment management plan that covered much of the same ground.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I also signed on for the LTP because I and all of the others in the room at the time saw this as a scoping. It's not it's just the very beginning. So even I think one stage the discussion turned to what would be the funding opportunities externally, including internationally, internationally. The delivery of the transformation change that would be required because of the extensive degradation of catchment, and in particular of the Ramsar site, Whangamarino and Waikare, which are so severely degraded. What is being talked about would require transformational change, and when we use the word restoration, we need to be also very clear about what we mean by that, because there's a whole series of different definitions for restoration, ranging all the way from, like I used the word before, rehabilitation, which might involve getting some of the functioning of the system back, but certainly would not bring back the indigenous ecosystems in the way that they should be in organic science. And so I'm hoping also that the scoping report will tackle that gnarly question of what do we mean by restoration, and make that really explicit, because that will determine the scale of the funding that is needed to actually implement all of this work.
How does the working group benefit from the expertise that the likes of Bruce bring to the table to wetlands and?
I don't know the names on you've got a science technical advisory group, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just give us a rundown on who those people are? That will help answer this question.
Yeah. So we're still in the process of forming those groups. We've got a number of people that we work with from University of Waikato, staff in-house, and a range of other folks who have done a lot of work over many years in that catchment. So that, I guess, the approach that we're looking to take is to try and bring people together to understand what information they have. We've already done a significant literature review of all the work there. More than 50 the technical reports brought together. But I think, yeah, to Bruce's comment, we again have to provide opportunities for people to share their knowledge. We've had a number of people in the community reach out, say that specialist knowledge in certain areas and want to be heard. We just have to give people opportunities for that. But we haven't formed the formal technical working group yet.
Yeah, so if I might also add to that, so I'd be hoping too that would be extended, the connections for that group, because there are a number of major bodies in Waikato and with the National Wetland Trust of New Zealand, which has a collective of experts from all around the country on wetland restoration issues. And so again, thinking in that long term, serious about, I'm a supporter of restoration in the true technical sense, which is a big deal. The funding that will be required to achieve that will be literally billions of dollars, billions, it'll be billions. And we really do need to use that scoping report opportunity to broaden this discussion as far as we can. And I'm also wondering, about the notion of even a symposium or some sort of event where people from anywhere are given the opportunity to come forward and tell us what they think, particularly to encourage the very best expertise from around the world, because that's the scale of the problem.
So here lies an issue for me, Bruce, if I may mention, is that I raised the issue of bringing Bruce into this group, and Robbie even said that he would stand aside from it, and Robbie and I are there because we're the Lower Waikato Subcommittee Deputy Chair of ICM, and Robbie's the ICM Chair. Yeah, when you form a board of trust, a board, you often select people for their skills, and I think for me, and this is possibly an internal issue, but it's one here for the Scouts, as you raised it, Jackie. Are we utilising the expertise and skills of people such as Bruce within our council? And I'm embarrassed, Bruce, I hopefully not, but the reality is for me, Bruce would be an absolute sitter to be on this committee to give advice and counsel in such matters. And some have said to me, well, that's probably one of the reasons why he shouldn't be there, because he's got too much knowledge already. And I just rubbish that comment. And so far as I think we need to think about Bruce is brought in here. And look, we are councillors, we have a short span of 3 years without any guarantee of being there longer. But while he's here, we should use him. Leave it at that.
We'll leave, oh, sorry, Jeff.
Sorry, 3 minutes here. And talking to the hapu, etc., that's on this list. I look through this list and I think to myself, critical of ourselves rather than anyone else. And I don't understand where, like cousin Rob, for example, what's his role going to be in this? I see his name down there, but how effective is that going to be for us? And I'm talking about ourselves as in Waikato Tainui, even though it's the hapu representative. So, it's the same old names that are on these things, and are we progressing? No respect to you and your group, Mike, but we just need to be really mindful of who's going forward with these working groups, and more importantly, I agree with Bruce. It's these sort of issues with these sort of projects are just so wide ranging, and if we limit ourselves to small thinking around the local, we miss the opportunity to be part of a bigger plan, as Bruce has said. And so I think it's something that I'm really keen to be able to look at, push through, etc., etc. And because like when you're working localized areas, you sort of get a bit blindfolded about what you might want to do, etc., etc. So like, you know, and there's a huge issue with wetlands worldwide, not just here. So we just got to make sure that we're including or casting the net as wide as possible, so we don't spend lots of money going over things that someone else has done, etc., or you know, I'm just a great believer in not reinventing the wheel. So that's my.
Even Iwi, we can't tell Iwi whether they've got a mandate to be there or not. And so if someone turns up to our meeting and says, I am from this hapu.
Yeah, no, I was being critical of ourselves. That's what I said.
But, you know, like, it's difficult for us.
So, yeah, just mindful of time. Be good to see the terms of reference for the working group, because we're looking at names, but we don't know what the task is clearly. So if that can be recorded as an action, I think it would be great if you could share with us some of the background material that's been developed. Absolutely supportive of Jeff's comments, not wanting to recreate or redo work that's already been done, and noting that there's a lot of work that's been done through the RIS and the Waikato restoration strategy and the previous integrated management plan that you spoke to. So yeah, just be really good to see that lit review of all of that knowledge and information being consolidated. I think going back to the original question or kaupapa, which was around how do we ensure that this project is not siloed from the other stuff. No doubt you've done a bit of a mapping exercise to understand what else is happening within the catchment. It would be good to see that, like if it's like just visual. These are different projects that that exist or have been completed recently or are planned, just so we can see what that looks like. And for me anyway, and Jeff, you know, would take advice from our teams who are the ones actually doing the work to understand where they think synergies exist across different projects and programs and where it makes sense to try and pull them in, or at least report across projects to make sure that things aren't falling through the gaps. I noticed Jaden's hand was up, so I'll give this time to Jaden before we move on, just conscious of time. But good discussion.
Yeah, good discussion. Kia ora koutou, Aramai couldn't be there in person. I just wanted to make a comment more than anything. One, just a mihi out to Mike for the leadership and Regional Council for securing some funding to bring the groups together. It's a very unique space. So these conversations are very helpful for myself and Mike, and for myself to be able to support Mike in this space. Because, as you all know, at the first hui, we had councillors, we had CEOs, and we had landowners all in one space. And we still got CEO at our last meeting. We had Antoine, CEO of WRA, and then councillors, and then different technical staff come into the space. So it's very helpful to hear from you, Jackie, and the support from the other JMA governors that she's want to be integrated into the structure, because it is helpful having that voice at those tables. Like Jeff said, there's some stuff we need to sort out internally. As operational staff, it's not for me to say who's mandated to attend huis, just like our Mikes can't do that for any other landowner as well. So that's the uniqueness and that's the opportunity we can have in those conversations going forward, that if we do have governors there, they can tell the mandate or whisper it to us to say, nah, this is who should be at these meetings. That's helpful because we're going to have, like you all say, a high level approach, but also that grassroots mātauranga is very helpful as well. Very unique space, very challenging space, but we can do it. We can do it together. I'm very optimistic, got to be optimistic in this game. But just some comments going forward that, you know, I'll try to help support Mike. Those actions are very helpful, Jackie, to you know, figure out a plan, a very unique plan to help us move forward, taking on all that feedback. And just want to me out to Mike, and very supportive of Mike and what he's done in this space, because yeah, I've never seen it done before ever, and I've never ever seen councillors, CEOs, landowners, operational staff, technical staff, all at one hui. It's pretty awesome, to tell you the truth. The discussions we have are very constructive, and as these discussions here will be helpful for those people to hear as well. Nō reira, kia ora koutou.
Thank you, Mike. And just want to echo Jaden's comments. Thank you for your leadership, not just in this space, but across the catchment. Kia ora, Mike. So there is a resolution to receive the report. There's a number of actions. I've written some of them down in case you didn't get to them all book, and I can report it all with you about that later. But can I get a mover to receive the report? Jen, seconded by Bruce. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Kia ora. So this is the big kaupapa update on the many joint actions, and it was very pleasing to see the progress that's been made. That's been evident throughout the whole year. So I just want to mihi to all of the staff who have made that happen, and completing or starting different initiatives and tasks, and also highlighting where the pinch points are. I just want to mihi to all of you. Over to Roger.
Kia ora, komiti tuatahi, e mihi atu ana ki te kei whakariti a tātou tēnei rā. And mihi atu kia koutou, Roger Lewis talking, and this is Ashley Eden, and Ashley is going to be doing the presentation, and she's really driving a lot of the work there. So,
I also just want to note that we have a few folks online who will specifically speak to the actions relating to Mahi Ati Mahi.
You might have to speak up, question.
Oh, apologies. Just wanting to note that we have a few folks who have joined us online, in particular Julian Snowball, who'll be speaking to the CDN actions within the strategic group program, and Nicholas and Brendan speaking to Mahi Ati Mahi. So first and foremost, we'll go through our meeting points, following the dashboard. We met at the beginning of the to put together a bit of a working group to progress a joint climate change strategy. Jennifer, she was in attendance at that hui. We established a regular meeting schedule, our next meeting being in February of 2025, and before that point we will conduct a review of climate change documents and identify where our strategic priorities align. We also hope to work with other territorial authorities in the new year. As I understand, Jennifer's already linked Waikato DC and HCC.
That's enough for the start. Yeah. For Auckland at some stage.
And we will look at how we can integrate some of those climate change actions into the strategic work program so that our efforts aren't siloed and there's that ongoing oversight of those actions. Also to note is that we've commenced the process of looking at our timeline for the next LTP. So as part of that, we'll be looking at how we can seek funding for these climate change actions. That round. Jordan, if you can move on to the next slide.
Yeah, I could just add, really good meeting. I think it's laid out quite nicely in the sense that we'll meet regularly, like maybe 6 weekly as the overall group, but in between, you know, others can meet up to progress things, but it will be nicely spaced hopefully between the JMA meetings. And then, yep, already had confirmation from say one staff member and one councillor is the intention from HCC and Waikare district. And there's a bit of work happening already in the sense that there's the CEDM side and marae preparedness, and the fact that there is this climate strategy that you guys have and we have, and looking at what's overlapping. So we're just hoping to take a lot of separate meetings that are currently happening and bring that into one place, and that would then look the same, say, as like one of these tables of the strategic work program. That's where it would then slot in, and by default then anything out of that should slot into that long-term plan. Yeah, that sense. So feeling good about it at the moment, but there's a bit of work to do to just get set up, especially that meeting in late February will be quite good, just to really make sure everyone's on the same page and that we think we can really do it. But something, at the very least, should come out of it and progress our Tainui's aspirations and ours. Talk about in our roadmap.
It'd be good to get an invite to those meetings. And just to copy in the other Waikato Tainui JMA members as well, just if they're interested.
Yeah, totally. You guys can pop in whenever you like. I'll just keep being there to hold the space, but I'd love others to just, see if you're interested, if you have availability.
Yeah, it'd be good to just have it laid out what the plan is, what the program is, what it looks like.
I think either in Feb or 6 weeks later we should. Is my timeline. Thanks for that.
So with respect to this strategic work program, we've had a lot of conversations internally, a lot of meetings to try and revisit our actions, identify what we need operationally to bring them back on track, addressing those ongoing delays. In the space of progressing the Te Ture Whaimana reporting tool, we have developed a project team and a project lead. We have put together multiple subject matter expert groups, and we've been progressing like interviews with those panels to identify activity links to Te Ture Whaimana, just asking them directly how the areas of the business contribute to objectives A to M, and then asking for any further feedback or data to accommodate those statements, and putting this all together into a communications piece that kind of outlines a story of WRC's commitment to Te Ture Whaimana. So we'll prioritise those interviews before the end of January in 2025, and most certainly share that back with you for feedback. Are there any questions on that?
So great to see some progress on this one. This one's been around for a long time. I guess I'm really keen to see what the outcome of the interviews has been. So if that can be on the next agenda to get a bit of information about that. Because I'm also really keen to understand how the WRC will embed that reporting into your BAU. So, how are you going to integrate that into your systems so that it's an automatic thing that people just do as part of their jobs, and not something that even really needs to be on our work program, because once it's there, it'll be okay, it's in place every year. You'll be able to just spit out the results, how's it progressing. And really happy to see that some of the gaps have been identified as well, so that we can have that coordinator around what needs to happen to plug those gaps, and feed into long-term planning processes or into the way that you deliver your projects and programs. So yeah, just really, really stoked to see that that one is on track for completion by September next year.
Next slide.
No one's disagreeing with me there.
So with the Regional Heritage Forum, WRC has issued a request for 3 consultants to undertake that work. And as far as I know, the work is expected to be completed in the second half of this year. Iwi capacity funding, Jordan? The legal review of the service level agreement has been completed. Finalization is still pending. And following that, we'll look at how we can develop a joint advocacy strategy to seek out funding from other agencies. Social procurement. Recently, our social procurement lead met with Julia Darlington from Waikato Tainui, and they were able to put together a bit of a joint understanding about the actions moving forward and shared goals. They're currently going through the process of cross-referencing our info databases that identify following that, we'll look at how we can connect procurement managers with tribal Pākehē by an event in the first quarter of 2025. And moving forward beyond that, we hope that we can request tribal affiliation as a relevant consideration when awarding a contract. But Roger, I'll just note that there has been some internal conversations around what constitutes tribal owned Pākehē, whether that be 50% Māori owned and operated, or whether that be whether that come down to the makeup of staff.
The definition. Our definition is 50% owned by a tribal member.
Yeah, that's been shared by Julia to Aston, our procurement manager. So that's quite clear. And just going back to the September meeting in 2023, when the strategic work program was signed off, and I sort of listened back to the original corridor, and of course Julia and Chad had some questions around, well, how come Mātāwaka was there? And so I sort of had to go back, and there were two comments that were made that I think are relevant to this comment, to this corridor about how we're defining it. One was from you, Madam Co-Chair, that we should be putting Waikato Tainui affiliated businesses first. And then afterwards, Donald Turner talked about, yes, well, we should also be constructing for everyone. So what I take from that conversation is there's a priority. That's Waikato Tainui affiliated businesses first. And and then from there I get it. But if there's no Waikato Tainui affiliated businesses that are going for a particular contract, then it would fall to the next one. So there's a bit more work that needs to be done there. From there, I don't think it's been clarified up till now, but we've started to have that conversation. Yeah.
I suppose the only comment, Madam Chair, that I'd make is that we focus on tribal business. I get what Don's saying in terms of supporting everyone, but our team focuses on tribal business. And at the end of the, if we can agree that you'll support us with that, whatever else you do is extra. But yeah, our first and foremost is support to tribal businesses. So I don't know if that helps, but.
Because like at the end of the day, that's the whole idea of what we're trying to do with our people, right? And support those businesses. So I wasn't there, so I'm not quite sure what Don was getting at, but I'd be surprised that he wasn't the number one priority being the tribe first.
No, I don't think he was undercutting what you were saying. It's still tribal first.
Yeah.
But if there's no others, that's what I think was. And he changed the word from Māori to Mātāwaka. Because originally the word was Māori, and then you said, no, not Māori, it's Waikato Tainui. We want to maximise opportunities for our Waikato Tainui whānau. And then, so it was Waikato Tainui and Māori, and he said, hang on, not Māori, but Mātāwaka, because we have a hosting scenario. So I don't think he's was changing that, but that's what ended up in the strategic work program. So that's what we've been trying to sort of find a nice way to flow with that. Yeah.
I think we're clear. Waikato Tainui first.
Yeah.
What would be interesting, and maybe this is for next year, is to get an idea of what are the types of mahi that regional council procure, And how do we, if there's not a pool of tribal business to support that or individual contractors, what should we be doing, you know, both us and in partnership with you to pull those types of skills through?
Yeah.
You know, we've talked a long time about like monitoring as an example. You know, our kaitiaki on the ground, they live there. They probably might come across them as offensive, but they have, you know, their own embedded interests in making sure that their backyard is well cared for. So why aren't we contracting them to do the monitoring? You know, train them. It's not that hard, but you know, train them so that they can perform those functions, not just in their voluntary role, but for the regulator as well. Those are some things that I'm really keen to explore. But I guess the first thing is just understanding what types of mahi does regional council procure. And you know, we know some of the things, but there'll be some areas we've got no idea.
Especially around here.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
I was just thinking that it's conflicts of interest. We have to be very careful about conflicts of interest or perceptions in.
Analysis.
Next, please, Jordan. So we just noted one area of the strategic program that requires further discussion is our sharing arrangements for spatial information. So as our co-managed lands agreement currently exists, there's a information sharing protocol that sits under Schedule 3. You know, it sets out special data sharing arrangements between WRC and Waikato Tainui in light of our partnership, and specifically makes mention of the duty to share spatial information. But I guess the question goes to whether we need to develop a guide to the process for making those data requests, and whether we need to perhaps socialise our data sharing arrangement under the co-managed lands agreement. I think perhaps it's something that our staff aren't fully aware of enough. But I will leave that with you.
So do you want to just explain the issue? So we've got a data protocol. In the pack, it says that you need some guidance from us to make sure that it meets the intended goal.
Yeah, because what I didn't understand just then was there is a information sharing protocol under the CMLA, but from my recollection, only action is development of an information sharing protocol. It is when we set the action that we didn't know we had that one, and hence we're saying, do we just need to make that one more visible? Rather than, or was the intention of developing the information sharing protocol to be wider than what we already have? I thought it covered a whole lot of things that might be even outside the CMLA, right? So people can remember the intention, or if you could. I'm not sure, because the intention is really important as to whether you need to develop a new one or make an existing one more visible.
Yeah, I remember that it was raised by our team. So I guess I'm leaning on the team to advise us whether that existing protocol works. Is it fit for purpose? Is it that we've just, like Ken says, we've forgotten about it, or it doesn't cover the things that we expect it to cover? So I wonder if that one, Ashley, if you can work with the team, that can be taken as an action just to investigate further.
Yeah, and was it always meant to be two-way? Is that information sharing protocol a two-way thing or a one-way?
Yeah, I'll just jump in to help with this one. In your assumptions made in the Pori law, you've nailed exactly what the issue is here. Initially, when we set the actions within the strategic work program, didn't have that full awareness and appreciation of everything that is within co-managed lands agreement. We're now far more aware of what the detail is within the agreement. It does cover off potentially adequately our commitment to work together with regard to sharing information, sharing data. There is a specific reference within that co-managed lands agreement about GIS information. So the next step for us will be to test alongside Waikato Tainui staff whether or not that particular protocol is fit for purpose in the current context. And we'll come back to the co-governance committee to confirm whether or not it is or whether we need to make some amendments to it. It fits in really quite nicely with regard to timing, because as you know, we're reviewing both our JMA and our co-managed lands agreement, so we can catch that in that process.
The last action within the strategic work program is to progress a community preparedness strategy. I will hand over Julian, who should be online.
You there, Julian?
Kia ora. Yes, I'm here. Just there you go. Can you hear me?
Yes. Kia ora.
Yeah, kia ora. Tēnā koutou katoa. So, no Wales aho, ko Penavanta Maunga, ko Ogmo Ta'awa, Julian Snowball, Toku Aingoa. I'm the group manager for Civil Defence Emergency Management for the Waikato Civil Defence Group, and I've been asked to come along today and talk to the community preparedness strategy. So kia ora, everybody. I think, well, first of all, I heard earlier on about, I think I heard some of the words around delays, and I think it might, an explanation of, or a very brief explanation, I should say, of the civil defence operating context might be helpful in explaining some of those delays in this particular action to date. So if you are able to permit me a couple of minutes just to talk through that, I think it might be helpful. I'll start off by saying, look, I'm here today, and this will hopefully paint some context. I'm here today actually representing the Civil Defence Group Collective, which is 11 councils. I'm not here speaking on behalf of WRC. WRC are just one member of that 11 council collective. The Civil Defence Group as a collective, they set and oversee the strategic priorities and the work priorities for the region as a whole. One of the purposes for that is to ensure that there is a consistency of approach and increased levels of resilience and no postcode lottery across the whole rohe. But the operational delivery of those strategic priorities that are set at that collective level are the responsibility of each of the member councils and other members such as Police, Fire and St. John. So any changes to the CDEM group priorities, I can't change those of my own at an operational level. You'd appreciate that, and neither can WRC change those priorities on behalf of the group. They have to go back to the collective. And some time ago, the CDEM group set me a strategic priority around getting greater participation and engagement with Mana Whenua and iwi across the region, and to come up with a collective work program for the whole rohe. And that was the parameters I was given. Now that included, part of that action was to have a community preparedness strategy, a region-wide one. Now, WRC, I appreciate and acknowledge very much that WRC incorporated that collective CDEM priority into their JMA with yourselves, into the JMA that we're talking about today, the co-governance, but it's left them in the position that they're being, and I feel very, I don't know what the right word is, but I feel for them a bit, because they've been trying to justify delays that they're not responsible for. I'm trying to be polite in terms of it's not WRC, it's the collective, but it's because the collective action has been put into the Waikato Regional Council JMA, with yourselves. But the responsibility for delivery of those actions actually sits with the likes of Waipa, Hamilton City Council, Waikato District Council. So we've been going back and forth with the group. It's not WRC's fault, is what I'm saying. It is the delays are because of the way that we're structured. But there's some good news, which I hope you can see. The good news is that we are making progress in terms of we being the collective are now making progress. And that's based in no small part to the advice that we were given to stop trying to deal with this as a whole and focus on a local delivery for this forum, for this co-governance forum that was recommended around use of JMAs to deliver this particular mahi. And on the 25th of October, we did facilitate a meeting between the executive or some executive members and mana whenua for Waikato Tainui and local authority members from Hamilton City, Waikato Regional Council, Hamilton City Council and Waipa, or Waikato District, sorry if I've duplicated there. And there was general support for using the Tainui Waka Collective COVID response review and the recommendations in there around what civil defence should do to improve the resilience of mana whenua. So that was a very useful meeting. On the 2nd of December, we, going back to the civil defence group, is the one that sets the strategic priorities on behalf or for us as a collective. We went back to the civil defence group with a recommendation about changing the framework, if you want, the strategic direction that was given of trying to work with all iwi and all mana whenua groups across the region to move forward and having a top-down approach of co-governance at a joint committee level to one of using a local delivery model for oversight and delivery arrangements involving mana whenua. That was agreed, that was wholeheartedly agreed and accepted by the joint committee who asked us to explore those models, not just for Waikato Tainui and this particular JMA, but recognizing there might be other iwi or mana whenua groups that don't have JMA, but would still have a local delivery arrangement that would be appropriate for this grassroots approach, if you want. So the next steps, now we've got the green light from the joint committee to change the strategic direction, is the work with Waikato Tainui again on the development of a consistent work program. And I think I've already indicated that will probably be very much based on fleshing out the recommendations out of the Tainui Waka Confederation COVID After Action report and going through roles and responsibilities of each of the members to deliver on that. I think what's worth pointing out, and I know Marae has indicated it as well in some dialogue that we've had, there are some councils who are doing very well in some of the areas of the recommendations of their own volition. So in the COVID After Action report, it might talk about Marae resilience, and I'll talk about Waikato District Council, who are doing very well in that space. Waipa are as well in a different context, but there might be others that are not as well advanced. So there is some good work going on at that individual council level. The whole purpose, or one of the objectives we hope to get out of this, is to bring everybody up to the same level and get everybody working on a consistent work program over a consistent time period. Now, what that means for going back to the roles and responsibilities when we do that work with Waikato Tainui and the members around developing the consistent work program, I anticipate that WRC as an individual council will have a very niche role. It won't be the owner, it can't be the owner of the whole community preparedness strategy, but it will provide very niche services, enabling services, such as hazard information to support the work of the local authorities and the Marae committees. For example, I saw on a previous slide, it talks about climate change and how Marae can be more resilient to climate change. And that's the kind of niche service that I think WRC will be providing to those local authorities and to the mana whenua groups and the Marae committees and to this committee in general. And obviously, I'm not telling you how to run your your business here, but I would anticipate that once that work program is complete, it would be an opportunity for you to have a look at the action that you hold WRC to account for. So I'll pause there because I'm conscious I've spoken a lot, and I'm sure there's some questions that people may have or queries. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Julian. I am conscious of time, but I'm just going to invite Mara if there's anything you wanted to add to Julian's kōrero.
No, that was a very good summary. The hui was good, and I just think it needed a conversation to sort of so everybody could line up where they sat in the space. The recommendations in the post-COVID report, and there's a booklet issued and there's an online version, are simply around civil defence doing more work with marae, and as Julian said, that's already happening across some of the councils. But there's also a recommendation around the review of the Civil Defence Act that was made, the regional and local role of iwi in civil defence, and training in the SIM structure. So there are gaps in the planning across the councils, and so our recommendation is for this higher level to group to look more at the gaps than trying to fill in where the other councils are already making progress. But we're comfortable with the progress made, and you know, I think hopefully when the other iwi are ready to jump on, they can join us when they're ready, and then they can just follow the template instead of trying to reinvent. Yeah, we don't like reinventing the wheel.
Kia ora, Mara. Just note that the update in our pack has TBC on, I guess, all of the actions post the March hui. So it'll be good to have some dates on things. Julian, great to have you join us. Thank you. It would be good to see you back here again to report on at the right time. So not at every meeting, but on the progress that's being made, particularly in the lead into the first draft of the strategy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to let you know, the TBC was my request of the Tauranga Whenua group, because those dates will be informed by the workshop above. So I don't want to, if you want, raise expectations when we do the workshop and everyone says, well, the work capacity is it only allows us to achieve it by a different date. So we will have some dates on there pretty soon in the new year, and I'm sure the Tauranga Whenua team will circulate those.
Great, thank you very much.
Kia ora, thank you.
Back to you, Ashley, if there's anything more.
Nothing further from me, but if it's all right with you, Madam Chair, I'd love to hand off to Nicholas online for a Karakia Timatanga update.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks. Madam Chair, if it's Cheers, if it's all right with you, we've got a small handful of slides so I can whiz through them and take questions at the end. I just wanted to acknowledge Harmon Sandhu and Brendan Manning. I'm not too sure if Brendan's online, but he is Sarah Leyland's place. He's the new manager. So March of this year was when we launched Toitu Te Whenua, our Waikato Tainui, Waikato Regional Council land management strategy. And associated with that, we've got an implementation plan, Mahia Te Mahi. And so I just wanted to take an opportunity to touch on some of the key tasks that have been completed. I won't touch on everything. I'll just touch on the key work streams. I just wanted to acknowledge the working relationship between Jaden's TIL team and Brendan and Harmon's team as well. As a joint Waikato Tainui Regional Council advisor, I'm here to facilitate and help both sides. I guess there's a few of the key fundamental building blocks of the strategy that had to be established to enable the ongoing delivery of the strategy into the future. And those were key processes about enabling Waikato Tainui to access, use, and manage those settlement lands. So the parties have collectively agreed the access process to enable Waikato Tainui access, the renewal or license to occupy process, and also the street huhu te rongo process as well. The team have also looked through the assessment criteria for relicensing of settlement lands. They've included Waikato Tainui priorities in those, in particular the Waikato Tainui access to those settlement lands if and when required. A key plank of the strategy is the right of first refusal, and so the team have agreed an annual RFR engagement process. RFR isn't fixed in stone, and so opportunities will arise into the future. And so post the annual inspections that will be undertaken for the settlement lands, and there'll be an opportunity to revisit those settlement lands and the operation of those settlement lands and whether or not they're still required for the purpose in which they were obtained. And so the team are currently looking at a couple of options for returning land to the tribe. One is not the full parcel or land parcel at Arms Road, but potentially some of it they could be settled off for restoration purposes. And the other one is a piece of land in and around Te Ohaki Road, but the team can come back and report on those in due course. I also wanted to acknowledge Taipu Paki, he's one of the general managers at Waikato Tainui. He gave a presentation to councillors and staff. We have his presentation, we have the Waikato Tainui RFR statements, as well as the webinar online on the Waikato Regional Council website for future access for staff and councillors. A number of site visits have been undertaken across settlement lands, and those will continue to happen as part of the annual inspection regime. I've touched on that. Critical work stream is the annual inspections. So we get a fair idea of the lay of the land, what condition the settlement lands are in, what work needs to be done, what opportunities could arise into the future or better use of that land. And so post the annual inspections, it's a bit of a trigger point to look at other opportunities. The team have also checked on the compliance of all of our settlement lands, ensuring those regulatory requirements are being met, and also gone through the licensing conditions to ensure those requirements are embedded into those licensing requirements, and particularly the requirement for environment plans and other types of plans as well. And also, I just wanted to touch on that last point with regard to being good kaitiaki, being good stewards of our land, and using our lands in a way that don't impact the taiao. Just wanted to finish off with a couple of slides on the special projects. So within the strategy and implementation plan, there's an area for special projects that have been identified by Waikato Tainui. Over time, there'll be more special projects added to that list. Just wanted to start off with this one here, because it kind of ticks all the boxes and it's a good poster child for the strategy itself. It's the restoration of a site of significance. This land was returned to the tribe under the Waikato River settlement. And it ticks a number of boxes because it provides for cultural activities, particularly Wakatoa, Wakaama. There's a strong restoration element to it as well. It's adjacent to the Waihi Stream floodgates. So it's adjacent to the Regional Council co-managed lands. And it's also a traditional waka landing site. Prior to the construction of Turanga Wawe Marae, Wahipa was one of the principal maraes of the Kingitanga. And so whenever dignitaries, no expressway or bridges in those days, but whenever dignitaries will meet with the sitting king, they'll take the train either down from Auckland or from Wellington. The Wakatoa, Tairi Tiki Tiki, will go across from Wahipa, pick them up on the other side on the east side of Huntly, and bring them back to this site here. And so the black and white photo that you see there is the Premier, Prime Minister Richard Snedden, with his dignitaries about to be hosted in Mapita. This will just, I'll throw this up just so people can get an idea where the site is adjacent to Waihipa near the Huntly Power Station. It's a site that's associated with, even though it's next to Waihipa, it's associated with all of the Huntly marae, but also through Waikato and Wakaama, associated with marae from Taupiri, across to Waingaro, up towards Tuako and across to Te Kauwhata. And so they all gravitate there for those cultural activities. On the right-hand side is just some engineering schematics that our engineer has developed on the restoration of the site. So the restoration of the site, it's a staged project. First stage is the design and consenting. Currently, it's very difficult to launch Wakatoa or access the river in that area, particularly at the when the river is quite low. And so stage one will focus on the design and consenting. Master planning, the engineers will go out and do the geotech. They'll develop the designs and lodge the resource consents in at the regional council as well as the district council. Just wanted to acknowledge the cash and in-kind contributions for stage one, particularly the direct cash funding from Waikato Tainui, and also from the Waikato River Authority. We had an application and submitted that earlier this year, and the WRA provided just under $250,000 for the stage one. Also acknowledging the cash and time contribution of Waikato Regional Council, particularly Harmon and his team, and also Genesis contributed as well. Future stages, post the lodging of the consents, we'll have stage two, that's the actual construction of the boat ramp and some of the facilities, and the riparian restoration, and that'll be another WRA application. And stage three is probably more so the civic facilities. I've got a couple of slides to finish off with that has photographs of the actual site, but civic facilities like car parking, safe entry into the area. It's not, I wouldn't say it's dangerous, but it can be a lot safer, made safer. Toilets and such. And so currently having conversations with Waikato District Council on how they can support this particular project here, and just signalling that maybe this could be a priority on the JMA as well. Moving to the next last couple of slides. The project team have been meeting quite regularly with the local hokainga. We've got a project team in place for the engineers and particularly Place Group. I paddle for Tūranga Wawe, so I work quite closely with some of the team at Place Group Consultancy who developed the Tūranga Wawe Wakatairing. So you'll be familiar with the king being put onto the Wakatoa and taken down to Taupiri. That's where the Tūranga Wawe Wakatoa is. And so that's the project team, and we'll go on to the last slide. Again, that just want to put pictures up there just to paint a better view of what's entailed here. And that's
Nicholas. Thank you for your update, and thank you for the leadership that you've shown in the Toitū Te Whenua strategy, and driving the implementation of the action plan alongside both teams. I just think it's awesome progress.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to be seeing things get ticked off, and projects like this are just wonderful. Open up really quickly for any questions or comments. Being very conscious of time, we've got a few more items to get through before we go into public excluded. It's a council thing, not a tribe thing. But so if there are no comments, besides acknowledging the awesome work that's happened all year, can I get a mover to receive the report? Jen, seconded. All in favour? Against? Carried. Awesome. Sure.
I just want to know if Adam Is online, has provided vessel update.
Oh, yeah, that was on my list. Thank you, Ashley. Got it, Adam. Could you give us an update on the Iaroa arrangements, please?
Yeah, kia ora, Madam Chair, just doing a sound check. You can hear me all okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Adam Munro, tōku ingoa. Yeah, my name's Adam Munro. I'm the WRC manager for flood protection land drainage. So working across the lower Waikato and the Hauraki areas, supporting the operational teams, maintaining our flood protection and land drainage assets. So thank you for the time this morning, Madam Chair, just give you an update on the vessel, Te Arawa. I do have some slides I could just quickly share if I can, if that's okay. And I've got 3 slides I'll quickly work through and have to take questions at the end.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Nice screensaver.
Hope you can all see that.
Nice. We're seeing your presentation screen.
Cool. Ka pai. Hey, thank you, Madam Chair. So just a bit of a background to the vessel that those may not understand or be aware. So it is a replacement vessel. We did have a previous vessel that did operate on the Awa, on the Waikato Awa previously. So this was a project that we applied through the COVID-19 Response and Recovery Shovel Ready project, administered and funded by MB, and some funding provided by others, including Waikato Regional Council, in the $1.92 million in total. The primary purpose of the project is to just support the WRC's flood protection and river management program. And as you know, we have a number of important assets along the Awa. These activities include the removal of trees, debris from channels, river control works, and obviously a lot of stabilisation of river banks. And that also has some benefit to help improve water quality as well. So the vessel or the Te Arawa is really important for supporting that work. We can't do the work on the banks of the river just because of the nature of the work. So that's why we require a floating platform. So the new vessel will be quite a lot larger asset that will help us enable to meet the demands of our maintenance program. It will also be available to support other agencies as well to also work on the river. And so we are working with those agencies as well. This is just a picture of the vessel here, the conceptual design. Te Arawa is known as the long current, and it's quite a long, wide vessel. I just can't remember what the dimensions are. I think it's about 12 metres by about 8 metres from memory. It might even be longer than that. It's got a lot of cool features on it, including what they call spuds, not the ones that you plant in the ground, but you'll see the poles that are horizontal on the side there. They actually go vertical by hydraulic, and they go down into the riverbed, and it minimises disturbance, and so it just holds the vessel in place while work is underway, so it doesn't move with the current. And that's the inset picture there is just it's a few months ago now. That's just the picture of the inside of the vessel being constructed up in Whangamarino. So just regarding the status report, where we're at with the build, unfortunately, it has suffered some delays in the construction, which has impacted the completion date by about 4 months. But we're working through with the contractors to, I guess, to minimise that and ensure delivery of the vessel in early mid-25. The resource consent application is very close to being completed, and the draft application will be provided to the Cultural Advisory Group for feedback in early February. We'll also plan a newsletter in the new year just to give an update on the details I've covered off this morning. And the project team are working closely with Waikato Tainui representatives, Glenda, Mahana and Jaden, to include the cultural elements of the project, which has been really appreciated and vital to the project. We also have had recent meetings just to finalise the blessings for the vessel. The first one will be held in around March, depending on the completion date in Whangamarino, and obviously before the vessel and on its arrival in the Waikato Awa shortly following later in the year. So we really appreciate Waikato Tainui's support in that part of it, and also in the project in general. So I'll leave it there, Madam Chair, and happy to take any questions. And if I'm unable to answer, I'll take note of those and I'll maybe get back through the minutes. And I'm just also conscious of time. Thank you.
Kia ora, Adam. Thank you very much for the recap. It's been about 5 months since we heard about the project, so really appreciate that. And for the update on timing. I think just as soon as you've locked down some of the dates around launching, if you take it as an action to invite the members, that would be great, alongside, I guess, the long list of people I'm sure who will be invited. Kia ora, Adam.
Kia ora.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So moving to the final item which I raised at the beginning of the hui around the Treaty Principles Bill. So we won't need to talk long about what our position on that is as an iwi. You would have seen through the media, through our chair, Tuku Roirangi, Morgan, and other leaders of Waikato and Tainui and Te Ao Māori, of how strongly we feel against this attack on us. I feel that the partnership that we've built over the last 10 plus years had its ups and downs, but I think the pack today and the progress that's been made is a real demonstration of the power of partnership, and bills like the one that's being put up just simply act to undermine and erode all of the progress that we've made and take our country backwards. So I really just want to make sure you understand our position if you didn't already. I know you've got a meeting tomorrow where your councillors will consider a paper that's been put to you to submit in opposition of the bill. We strongly support that position and really want to see you as our partner come out with a strong voice against the Treaty Principles Bill and other legislation that's being crafted to remove reference to te tiriti, to co-governance, and erode the progress that we've made. So just wanted to sort of put it there, make sure it's on the agenda, on the record. I'll invite Jeff to add anything that you want to before handing it back to you.
Oh, you said it all, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair, for raising this, and a number of councillors have raised a desire to have a conversation around this. And so we've got a conversation among councillors tomorrow, and I believe there will be a late item coming to our council meeting this Thursday to formulate a full response in submission. So thank you for raising this. I'm well aware of Waikato Tainui's view on this. That's been shared through a number of channels with us. And we also, as a regional council, recognize a number of legislative drivers that surround the work that we do as a council, but particularly the work we do in partnership with our treaty partners, and how critical te tiriti is to the foundation of those arrangements. So thank you for raising it. It is noted, and we'll be discussing that as a council.
Thank you. I understand that Waikato District Council, there's a beautiful article. I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. We look forward to a similar sort of article coming out of Regional Council. Kia ora koutou. I think that brings us to the end of our open agenda. We've got a closed agenda. I'm not sure that anyone in the room needs to leave for that. So there's a resolution in front of us that according, you can read it. Sensitive matter that requires the public to be excluded.
I was just curious if there's any elaboration, because it's not in the plain English side of things, of the reason for excluding. Maybe Marley could, just so it's clear. Because we had in the past, we haven't always had this, so. And we could understand it before we move and second.
Sure. Quite simply, the reason we recommend we go into public excluded is because the topic, specifically the review of the JMA, the review of the co-management agreement, is still under negotiation. And once those negotiation processes are complete, then we will be recommending
So I can have a mover. And seconded by Noel, all in favour. Against, carried. How do you, Molly?
Oh, we just need to stop the recording.
And we're all good with everyone who's on the call?
We'll make sure that the